There are two simple rules for Pecha Kucha. 20 slides. Each slide automatically advances after 20 seconds.
As a magician, a professional magician, I'm often asked about stories of magic and illusion, and I love talking about the art of illusion. It's my life. But I've found over doing this for 2 decades that people can only ask certain questions. Well, how long have you been doing magic? Can you tell me how a particular trick works? And can you make my spouse disappear? I've also learned that people can only name a few magicians. Try it yourself. Here's a test. Think of all the magicians that you know. Your list is going to be pretty short. You'll think of maybe David Copperfield, David Blaine, Chris Angel. You're coming to your end, aren't you? Not for me. Doug Henning. Yes, but is that about it? Yes, but there's one magician who's on everyone's list all over the world. Who is it? Houdini, yes. Houdini's been dead for nearly 90 years. No one in this room saw him perform, yet his name is inescapable. So why is it that he stays with us? I contend that Houdini will be around with us for the next 500 years, if not longer. Now, Houdini's real name is Eric Weiss. He added an I to the end of Robert Houdin. Robert Houdin was a French magician known as the father of modern magic. Harry comes from his family's way of saying Eric as Harry. Harry Houdini was born, the name was born in the United States. Eric Weiss was born in Budapest, 1874. When he was 4 years old, his family emigrated to Appleton, Wisconsin. But there he performed his first magic trick. His father had a hard time finding work, so Harry and his brother escaped to New York City. They had an act in Coney Island called the Houdini Brothers. At Coney Island, that's where Harry met the future Mrs. Houdini. Harry was 19, Bess was 17, and the brother Theo was soon out of the act. The new act was called the Houdinis. Now, their most famous trick was called metamorphosis. They started this in Coney Island, in New York, then toured the East Coast. You've seen this trick before by other magicians, but it is a Houdini original. Houdini was locked, shackled, thrown into a box. Bess, his wife, was on the outside. In 3 seconds, they changed places. Metamorphosis, right before your eyes. Now, Houdini was a great magician, but he was an even better escape artist. When he hung upside down in Washington, D.C., just 1 block from the White House, over 100,000 people watched him do that escape. At the time, it was more people that gathered in one place in D.C. outside of a presidential inauguration. Now, Houdini always looked for different escapes, different restraints to challenge him. He would tell people, hey, you own a safe, lock me in and see if I can get out. He was sewn into the belly of a whale. He was frozen in a block of ice. He was buried alive, and he always got out. Perhaps his toughest challenge was an invention of his own called the water torture cell. In this restraint, Houdini was shackled at the ankles, hoisted upside down, and then lowered into a thin glass tank of water. In this position, Houdini could not turn himself right side up. Night after night, his skills and nerves were challenged, yet he always escaped. The only thing that nearly got Houdini in permanently was the death of his mother. In life, he was devoted to her. In death, he was devastated. He actually gave up magic for a point of time. He did go on to escape that sorrow to look for greater challenges. What greater than to confront gravity? After the Wright brothers flew their plane at Kitty Hawk, Houdini bought his own plane, took it to the continent of Australia, and there in 1910 became the first person to make a successful solo flight on the continent. The country even gave him a stamp to commemorate the event. Actually, it's much later than that point. If he were alive today, Houdini would be heavy into social media. The social media of his day was film. He starred in 5 major film productions. He went on to create his own film production company. For his work, Hollywood gave him a walk on their legendary Walk of Fame. They gave him a star on their Walk of Fame. Houdini went on in 1953 to have a biograph done of him, starring Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. This film spread the legend of Houdini far and wide, but it also spread some falsehoods. In the film, Houdini dies in the water torture cell. That did not happen. Houdini did not die in any of his escapes. The start of Houdini's death begins in Canada, in Montreal. He was punched in the abdomen before he could brace himself. That punch ruptured his appendix. Several days later, Houdini died in Detroit, Michigan, Halloween night, 1926. Now, Houdini is dead, and he's buried in New York City, Brooklyn. Every year, they hold a seance to see if he'll communicate back from the dead. Julie, he never does. But at the time of his funeral, they called him one of the truly great men of the age. I propose that Houdini and his story, one of the truly great stories of the ages, and we'll know him for decades to come. You see, today, there are thousands of articles, books, magazines that feature Houdini. Go on the web and you'll find hundreds of products that have nothing to do, that are named after Houdini, that have nothing to do with magic or illusion. Houdini wine openers, Houdini cheese, Houdini personal items, we'll leave it at that. So, some of you know what I'm talking about. Why does Houdini stay with us? Because Houdini's story is our story. Who hasn't faced a challenge and wanted to escape from that? Who hasn't heard about the immigrant story? Someone coming to the United States, rising far above their station to become an international icon. On some level, there's the resurrection story, buried alive, actually facing death and being resurrected. It's spiritual. You see, Houdini lives because we live. We all want to overcome some challenge, some place we want to escape to that's better. Now, if Houdini were alive today, he'd be thrilled to know that there's a Pecha Kucha after him. He would be. The only complaint Houdini would have is, well, 6 minutes and 40 seconds to tell the story of my life? Why so short? Thank you.